Good evening, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of the show. We got, once again, kind of like part two of our chat with the legendary drummer, Carmine Appice. Carmine, welcome to the show once again.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. So Carmine and I had such a good conversation last week, but we had to kind of keep it kind of short as he's got interviews lined up all over the place. And we both kind of felt like we wanted to talk some more. So here we are tonight.
So here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. So, on the last episode, if you haven't caught it, check it out. Carmine talks a lot about the upcoming Vanilla Fudge album that's coming out next year. But tonight I kind of wanted to talk to Carmine about like the history of, a lot of the stuff that he's done over the years and all these great, Carmine, you've Vanilla Fudge and Cactus and Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart and Ozzy. So you've had an amazing career. And you continue to have an amazing career.
I've been blessed. Definitely blessed.
You've been blessed. So
yeah, it hasn't been easy though.
I'm sure it hasn't been easy.
Right? I always said, when I do clinics, when I joined the Vanilla Fudge with the Pigeons, I joined the Fudge. 9 months later, we had a song on the radio that hit. Then, a couple of months later, we had an album that was top 4. And I said, wow, that was easy, And then I would say, but it was harder to stay there.
Yeah. Yep.
To stay in the public eye, to keep doing the next project and moving on, not just like, when the band breaks up, you go, oh no, my band broke up, what am I going to do? I always had like the energy and the foresight to keep going, and still, I still do that even at my age. And even yesterday, me and my wife, we went for gun shooting lessons. Because down here in Florida, everybody has a gun. They carry guns, so we're going to go for some lessons and get a gun for the house, just for the, a lot of people have guns in their house. I never had a gun. So we went for lessons and, we got up at, 7 o'clock in the morning, went for the lessons at 10, got out of there at 2:30 and ran around. So by the time I got into my studio to try and put down this kind of Latin jazz track with this guitar player I'm doing songs with, and I'm really learning how to work my studio with him. By the time I got in there, I was really fried. Fried. But I went in there and gave it the gun. I said, forget it. This ain't happening. Instead of just, I texted him. I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play this track. I'm not really a Latin drummer, It's not really my style. But then today we went out and had some lunch with some friends and went to the post office. I came back, and my brother Vinny helped me with the computer because I had to put some wires on the hard drive inside the computer. Then once I did that, we set up the track. I said, I'm going to give it a try. Now I got some more energy. And you know what? It just kicked ass. And that's the way my career's been. It goes downhill, and then you just say, I'm going to go get it.
So in saying that, you've had a lot of highs and low points. What was the absolute zenith and what was the absolute lowest point in your whole musical career?
I think the highest point was obviously with Rod Stewart, because there was like, when I was with Rod just after that, it was like unbelievable. I was in this band, we were playing 6 nights at the Forum, 5 nights at the Garden. In Australia, we do 6 nights at 8,000 seater and then play a stadium in the same town. We have like 80, 90,000 people, in Europe, all over the world, Australia, Japan, 7 nights at the Budokan, It was unbelievable. Plus I wrote Do You Think I'm Sexy was #1 in all these cities. And then after that, Young Turks, which went to #4 everywhere. And then I had a deal with Synsonic Drums, and I had all my endorsements and all the it was just like an unbelievable time, and then I went straight from Rod into Ted Nugent. And then from Ted, we did a project with Rick Derringer, another Vanilla Fudge album, then Ozzy, and that was like a big run from 1967 until then of playing arenas all the time.
Yeah.
I'm headlining arenas. And then from the mid 80s on, start getting a little weird with King Kobra because we weren't headline. We'd headline like 1,000-seat club in LA and do it twice and sell it out, But as far as headlining the arenas, I wasn't doing that anymore. you know. And then Blue Murder, we got back into, you know, we did, I don't know, what is it, 3,000 seaters in Japan, 6 nights, you know, and then we did Osaka Festival Hall 3 nights. You know, with Rod, we did it like 6 nights, you know. But so it went sort of like that, you know. And then when the 90s hit, that's when it was really low. You know, I had a band with Jeff Watson, Bob Daisley, Joe Lynn Turner. We couldn't get arrested with that band because the grunge was in. We were like played out. Yeah. So I spent the whole 90s in Japan with a band called Pearl and doing my Guitar Zeus records. And really, I did great in Japan. I became like a very well-known guy there. I was very well-known anyway. You know, matter of fact, when I went there with Rod, we played the first gig in Tokyo. No, actually, in Nagoya. And I said to Rod, you know, I'm pretty well known here in Japan because they had Music Life was a big, huge magazine. And I was always in the top 4 drummers voting over there. So he said, oh, yeah, he just took it in, you know, one ear and out the other. So when I did my solo in that first night, Rod came out and he said, Carmine Appice on drums. And the audience was yelling so loud he couldn't even hear himself, right? So that night he called me up to his suite. I used to call him Howie because he was always up in the top suite of the hotel like Howard Hughes. And he could never go out because people would recognize him and forget it, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I went up and he said, wow, you were really right about you being well known here. I said, yeah, man, I was well known here. Cactus was big, BBA was huge here. You know, the Fudge was big here, you know? So he said, well, we're gonna do a press conference in Tokyo. I want you to sit next to me because obviously you're gonna get questions. So I did, and in that press release, it was me and Rod getting the questions and nobody else in the band. So I felt really good, you know, and we became good friends in that band.
Is he the best front man you ever worked with?
Totally.
Yeah.
He was the best front man. When I worked with him, I would say Rod was God as a front man. He was it. He had the look. He had the unique voice that started the trends. He had great lyrics, great songs, you know, and just as an energy on the energy he had running back and forth. When we opened up for the Faces with Cactus, my parents came to Madison Square Garden, and it was like, my mother said, wow, that singer is really great. He wears a scarf around his neck. He's all over the place. He's really great. I said, yeah, that's Rod Stewart. He is really great, you know. And then when I started
Cactus
playing,
and the Faces. That sounds like a pretty crazy tour, right?
And there was a group called Bull Angus opening up. And the
Bull Angus is great, yeah.
And what's his name from Bon Jovi, the drummer? Or blank.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Come on, how could I go blank? He was a friend of mine. How could I go blank? God, it'll come to me. That's my age. You know? But he was in the opening band, and then Cactus and Bling, and we did some crazy hotel wrecking. You got to read about it in my book.
Yeah.
It's, I know you haven't read it yet. I
have to get it. Yeah. It's like, you know, it's funny because when I was thinking about what we're going to talk about in the show, I was like, well, I want Carmine to talk about some of this fun stuff, but you got to save. Everybody's got to save it to go and read the book, right? You don't want to give the whole book away, right?
No. There's some good stuff and bad stuff in the book.
Yeah.
There's some lulls and there's crazy, you know, sex stories in there, and it's a bit X-rated, but I want to leave more of it out. But my writer, the co-writer who wrote Nikki Sixx's Horror Diaries, said, leave it in. He said, middle-aged women love that. And sure enough, when we're doing gigs, I tell these, you know, it's like a 50-year-old woman would buy the book, and I said, you know, it's X-rated. She'd go, good. Not just once. I mean, I'm talking many times, uncountable amount of times, you know. So,
who's the craziest guy you ever hung out with and went on the town with?
Wow, that's an interesting story. Probably Pete Buckland, the Faces tour manager, and it was Rod's tour manager. And that's how I got the gig. I called him to get the gig to Rod. And he was mad. I mean, he would wreck rooms. I mean, me and Tim went to England one time to do a session for Mickey Most. You know, Mickey Most produced the Jeff Beck group albums. He produced Donovan. He produced so many things. And so we were there on his dime. And Pete came to the hotel. And when we left to go to the studio, he destroyed our hotel room. It wasn't on our name, Usually when we destroy hotel rooms, we ended up paying for it. But Mickey Most ended up paying for it. And we just cut out of England quick, as quick as we can. He was pretty crazy.
Did you ever hang out with Keith Moon?
I did. He was pretty crazy. We once had a drum battle on a television set when they had those big wood television sets, like in the Beverly Hilton Hotel, the Ritzy Hotel. And I was up there partying. Oh, come on, let's have a little bit of a drum battle. He turns the TV over and he hands me a pair of sticks. He starts beating on the wood. This is a beautifully finished TV. So I had to oblige him,
You can't say no to Keith Moon, right?
No, he was wild. We did a lot of gigs with them. He was a cool guy.
So what about your time spent with Ozzy? I mean, that wasn't a really long period in your career, but a little tumultuous, right?
It was a great band, and Ozzy, Sharon kept trying to keep Ozzy off drugs and drinking. And Motley Crue was the opening band. They were just starting to happen. So I became good friends with all those guys. So I always did with, all my career, I always made friends with the opening band, like Led Zeppelin, Motley Crue, and these guys become huge, But anyway, I remember I would do master classes every day almost in every market where we pull into a city in the morning in the bus, we sleep on the bus, get out, go in the hotel room. I'd leave, get to the venue, we do a quick sound check, and then somebody would pick me up, take me to a store. I would do an hour master class, I would teach, and I'd come back, and I still have like an hour or so left before we go on stage. So I'd come back, and I'm all fired up. I just did the master class, and I'm watching Motley Crue, and they're kicking butt on stage, And then we get dressed, and we're getting ready to go on. I'm standing next to Ozzy. I go, Ozzy, come on, let's go. You ready, Ozzy? So, I'm bloody knackered. He's yawning. I'm bloody knackered, mate. She had me doing interviews all day. I said, so what? I did interviews. I did a master class. I'm ready to rock. Let's go. So the band was amazing. And sometimes Ozzy would, forget lines. And, but Ozzy was a good guy. He really wanted to be an actor, He really wanted to be an actor. And we talked about the fact that in the old days, when Black Sabbath was just starting out, they headlined a club in where is it? In New Jersey, not Atlantic City. I forgot the name of the city. Asbury Park.
Oh, okay. The convention center, maybe?
Yeah, no. It was a club, the Sunshine Inn.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Black Sabbath, Cactus, and a group called Steel Mill that had Bruce Springsteen in it.
Yeah.
Okay? So we had a little roadie named Mike Spina, a little roadie. He had a bag of pot. Somebody stole the bag of pot and hit him on the back of the head. And he was like dazed. They stole his pot. Nobody knew who it was. But, we're talking to everybody. We pinned it down to it was Black Sabbath, So the guys in, Cactus, me and Tim, Rusty Day from Detroit, he was a badass. He'd carry guns and knives on the road. And Jim McCarty from Detroit, we were like this with Black Sabbath, the 4 members of Sabbath, 4 members of Cactus, like this, ready to kill each other, right? Made big headlines in Circus Magazine and all that. So I started talking to Ozzy about that. Hey, Ozzy, remember that day? He goes, yeah.
Is it true that Geezer, I heard Geezer was the most pissed off about all that.
I don't know. I never really got to talk to Geezer about it. But me and Ozzy laughed about it, And I remember one time we went in and we turned Ozzy's room upside down when Sharon was on the tour, And then he got me back. Yeah, but it was fun. I mean, being with Ozzy, I mean, Sharon, you know, she's, you know, it's horrible. She fired me. She fired so many people, you know. And I had a deal where I co-produced. I was assistant producer on Bark at the Moon. When they hired me to go into the studio and finish the album and take care of Ozzy. Sharon left Sharon left Ozzy in my care in New York City because I knew New York City, you know. And you know, we'd walk to the studio and he had all his diamond rings on. I said, dude, take those off.
Yeah.
You don't walk around New York City exposed with diamond rings at night, you know, before you know, New York got cleaned up.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but we recorded, and it was Tony Bongiovi who was Tico Torres. That's his name.
Yeah. Okay.
Tico
Yep.
Torres.
Yep.
That's the drummer. Tony Bongiovi, I worked with Vanilla Fudge. He was the engineer. You know, so we went in every day and we finished the album. We were doing like 2 or 3 vocal words and songs. Okay, let's do the next 2 words. You know, it was pretty crazy, you know. But me and Ozzy, were, you know, we were good friends. You know, even when I got canned, we were doing King Kobra, and I got pretty meaty record deal and merch deal. So I had cash to use to set the band up. We bought a truck. We bought a motorhome. You know. I figured spending money on a bus was a waste of time. Let's get a nice motorhome, and we can own it.
Yeah,
you know, you make a payment of $300 a month to own it. You know, so we did that, and it wasn't a brand new one, but we wanted to paint everything white. We had a white van. You know, we painted the van white. We had a truck that was white, and I wanted to paint the motorhome white. So I was taping up the windows at Mate's recording rehearsal place in LA. And Ozzy was there, funny enough, auditioning drummers, right? So he came up to me, he says, oh, Carm, I hope you're all right. I hope you're not mad at me. We could still be friends. You know, it wasn't me, it was my missus that fired you. I said, Ozzy, I know it's not you. You know? So then he goes, what you doing? I said, I'm taping up the windows here. He goes, oh, you need a hand? I go, sure. So I put Ozzy on a ladder.
Put him to work.
and we both were taping up the window, we're putting, you know, brown paper on it and taping the edges, you know, so the paint wouldn't get on the window.
Yeah.
And then we went in and played with King Kobra. And I think Ozzy was the very first person to actually see a whole show of ours, right, in the soundstage area. And I went on board, you know, like the racks. I had gold racks with a big riser with slides on it, and everything was black, red, and gold. My drums were black, red, and gold. We had all gold fronts on all the amps. Their amp racks were gold. We had aircraft landing lights on the top that went into like K's, like K. When we played live, you know, while they were yelling for an encore with my roadie, I would go K. And we had these other lights now. It was a pretty wild, amazing set. It cost me $20,000 for that set.
Wow.
Now I use it in my locker in LA for shelves.
At least you're putting it to use, right? Money well spent?
Putting it to use, without a doubt.
Did you know Lee Kerslake, who we just lost a couple
Yes,
days
I
ago?
did.
Yeah.
I did know Lee. I knew him when he was with Uriah Heep. That's when I met him. We toured with Cactus and Uriah Heep. And that's when I found out that they were influenced by Vanilla Fudge. You know?
Yeah, certainly, yeah.
And the keyboard player was a friend of mine whose name I can't remember now either.
Ken Hensley.
Ken Hensley, thank you. And I knew Ken through the years. He started working as a St. Louis Music, which was a music distributing company.
Yep.
And I did some endorsing with him and played some celebrity gigs at NAMM with him, stuff like that. But Lee, I'd seen all through the 70s with Uriah Heep and Cactus, and I seen him during the 70s. Then I hadn't seen him for a long time, and then I think it was like late 80s, I was doing some touring, clinic touring in Europe, and he was on the bill, and I saw him there a few times. And then I saw him here and there, and then I hadn't seen him in years, and I saw him last year when he told me he was sick.
Yeah.
And he was really heavy, and it was at the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame, which he got an award. And that was after Bob Daisley and him sued Ozzy and Sharon, and they didn't get anything. And that was so sad because that Blizzard of Oz album was supposed to be a 4-way split band, not an Ozzy album.
And those two guys wrote almost all the songs and arrangements,
Yes.
right? So,
they did it all with Brandy, you know. And Bob wrote all the lyrics, you know, and they did 2 albums at the same time.
Yeah.
And they both sold a lot. And so they got screwed out of millions.
Yep.
You know, I only got screwed out of hundreds of thousands, but they got screwed out of millions.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's you know,
terrible. It's really bad.
Yeah, really bad. It's, you know, tough year all around. We've lost some, you know, notable people. It started off with, you know, Neil Peart from Rush early in the year, and it's just, you know.
Yeah, we just did a Modern Drummer Festival in tribute to him, to Neil, you know, and it's still running. It's going to run until December. We did it on Live, I think Live X Live, and there's a pay-per-view, and once you buy it, you can view it until December.
Oh, great. Okay.
And from what I understand, they have thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And we had 36 named drummers on this thing.
Wow.
You know, it was really cool.
Very cool. So, so you've worked with some pretty amazing musicians over the course of your career. Name 3 that instantly come to mind without overthinking it, that have probably impressed you the most, or that you got along with the best, either in a band or a project or in the studio, whatever. Like
Jeff Beck.
Okay.
Pink Floyd. And, well, Blue Murder, I guess, impressed me the most.
It's funny you bring up Blue Murder, because I know we talked a little bit about them last week, and then I did a Blue Murder show on the channel here just yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I went and I was listening to that debut album again, because, you know, they got the 2 albums. The second one is not nearly as good, but it's got a couple good songs. So that first album is just classic, start to finish.
Yeah, I know. I like I'm on Fire on the second album.
That's a great song. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Now, how much did you actually play? You and Tony
on that song?
on the second album. How much did you actually participate?
Well, what was it? 12 songs? I played 9 or 10.
At least. So you did. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I had left the band. It was kind of weird. I mean, after the band released that first album, we did Japan. We did a American tour. We lost the manager that we had. We didn't have any good manager, period. That's why the band didn't go. You know, in those days in the 80s, you had to have everything. You had to have the management, the PR piece, the record company, everything, you know, and the radio airplay, the video airplay guys. We had a management team, and it was, you know, they weren't a management team. It was a lawyer. It was John's stepdad and some other guy, you know, and, you know, they didn't take control of it. They didn't get control of it. So we fired them, and the album's out, and we had no managers. So we were like calling the shots, you know, like we did, you know, Geffen's plan was to use Valley of the Kings to introduce the band, and then later put all their balls behind Jelly Roll to really get a hit single. And we spent 150 grand on that video, Valley of the Kings, and we told, we want to see that on MTV. We don't care what you say, you know. We spent all that money. We want to see it on there. And John was right behind us, and you know, my manager that I had at the time was sort of coaching us, you know. And then we finally got a manager later, but it was too late because Valley of the Kings, we shot our wad.
Yeah.
And it didn't do what they wanted it to do.
Well, because they only played it on Headbangers Ball. I mean, that's not good. That's not enough, right?
Yeah. And then when they released Jelly Roll went up to top 4 requests on radio, but Geffen didn't give it the last push, you know? And John always said, because we were on the same label as Whitesnake, that Coverdale had something to do with that. I don't think so. I just think we didn't have a manager, and because they paid big money for those records, you know?
Yeah. You have to wonder, too, So the Blue Murder album came out, what, 2 years after the Whitesnake 87 album, right? It was 89, I think, Blue Murder,
Yes,
right?
89.
You have to wonder if it had come out a year earlier, if it would have made a bigger splash. Because I always thought that Blue
Yeah,
Murder album was fantastic and should
it
have
was
been
an
enormous.
amazing album.
But
What
maybe
some
a
I
little
would
late.
say, I would say to people, they say, "Well, I hope good luck with it." I go, "Look, if this album don't make, I'll bet you my house this album's going to go big." That's how sure I was. I mean, John Kalodner signed it, you know, but we didn't have the manager, you know.
Yeah.
But after that happened, we did go to Japan. We had 12,000 people in Japan.
Yeah.
You know, the album was huge in Japan, and the second album was huge in Japan too. To the point where me and Tony weren't in the band, we went to Japan as Carmine and Tony from Blue Murder, the Super Session album, and we were doing, you know, 4,000 people everywhere, you know. And I did that in '82 after Rod too. I went to Japan and played the Budokan under my own name, you know. But you know, it was like sad because John was so pissed off and depressed about it that, you know, he didn't want to do anything, you know.
It's a shame.
And I mean, I don't blame him. That was his baby. I mean, he left Whitesnake and got that deal. He tried it with Cozy Powell and Ray Gillen. That didn't work. Spent a fortune doing that, you know. And then, you know, I heard about the band. I wanted to be in that band because I love Tony Franklin and I love John playing on that Whitesnake album and the one before that. And John and David asked me to play on that big Whitesnake album. I couldn't do it.
Really? Oh.
Because I had King Kobra.
Yeah.
In those days, once you're in a band, you're signed to a major label. You can't just quit and go to
no matter how big the pull was, no matter how big that pull was, right?
You can't go. You can't go because you signed a contract.
Yeah.
You know, just like when I was with KGB with Mike Bloomfield. That's the question. That was the low part of my career. That band was the lull of my career, really low part. And while that low part was just starting to happen, I was asked to join Rainbow with Richie, right? When Ronnie was in it. I couldn't do it. I was signed to KGB on MCA Records. I couldn't.
So that was before they asked Cozy, they asked you.
Yes.
Wow.
So I used to bust Cozy's balls when I used to see him because, you know, we were friends. And he had gotten in Jeff Beck because, you know, after we were supposed to play with Jeff, he got in a car wreck and Cactus was going to be with Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart. Rod didn't want to work with Jeff, and then it was going to be me, Jeff, and Rod, and Tim, and then we were going to find a singer. And the day before Jeff was going to come meet with us with Peter Grant, the manager in New York, and meet our manager, he got in a car wreck, put him behind 18 months. We had already broke the Fudge up. And we're going, well, what do you want to do? So we said, well, let's get somebody else. So we got Jim McCarty, who was also a guitar hero of a sort, not as big as Jeff Beck. But, you know, he was Mitch Ryder in Detroit Wheels, the Buddy Miles Express. He was a happening guy. And Rusty Day came from the Amboy Dukes, from Ted. You know, so we figured, okay, we still got sort of a super group, but not as big as it would have been with Jeff and Rod. So we did that. So when Jeff came back after 18 months, we were still doing Cactus, and he got Cozy. So I said to Cozy after he got the Rainbow, I said, what are you my professional replacement? I said, you know, I couldn't work with Jeff. Jeff gets you. I couldn't work Rainbow. Blackmore gets you. You know, we both laugh. You know, it's funny. You know.
Well, these are great stories. Are there any other almost happened musical situations that maybe you haven't talked about much that you have kind of hiding in the closet, like these, like almost joining Rainbow, and you know, any other things?
Well, these are all in my book. These are all in my book in more detail. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the Mother's Army story with Bob Daisley, Jeff Watson, the way that all happened led me into doing Guitar Zeus. You know. Because it was like 91, and I'm thinking, you know, Blue Murder was like a super group. Maybe we should try and put a new super group together. So I talked to Bob, and Bob was into it. Bob was living in England then, and we had Jeff Watson from Night Ranger. Yep. You know, so Jeff had a studio in his house, a full-blown studio, and he said, "Why don't you come to our house and we could work stuff out?" So me and Jeff went up there. And then we were looking for singers. We couldn't find singers. And finally we got Jolyn Turner. But we were going to call the band Zeus, you know. Then we ended up calling Mother's Army.
Yep.
And Jeff had a deal in Japan for his own album called The Lone Ranger. There's a Night Ranger. He was by himself. The Lone Ranger was cool. So he got a deal. And I said, you know, I did my first solo album, 1982. Here it is, 1989, 1991. Been trying to get another deal. I can't get a deal. I said, he's a guitar player, comes out of a band, gets a deal like that. I said, what do I got to be, a guitar player? You know? I said, man, I should do a guitar album. I'm kidding now. Talking to the guys, I'm kidding. I said, I should do a guitar album. I'll call it Guitar Gods. You know? I said, nah, I'll call it Guitar Zeus. Right? So we laughed, went up, recorded, went to bed that night. I'm staying at Jeff's house. I went to sleep and I'm going, Guitar Zeus, that's a really good idea. You know, that's a great idea. How could I do this? It's another one of these, how could I go get this?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I had to find a manager that could do it, you know. And I found this guy, Wyatt, that was big in Japan. He knew how to do everything out of Japan. So he helped us in Japan with Mother's Army. And then I asked him, I said, I got this idea. I told him the idea. You think you can do it? He says, yeah, I could do that. But it took me 2 years to find this guy. You know, we had the Mother's Army thing going for a couple of years. You know?
Yeah.
And so he put it together, and then I did it, and it became huge in Japan. I mean, it was a Burn magazine, which is a big. It was like top 4 in Japan, you know, and Europe. It was like I sold 50,000 in Europe. I sold 40,000 in Japan, and then I did Guitar Zeus 2. I did another thing altogether. I sold about 200,000 records. I did Guitar Zeus Japan, Guitar Zeus Korea, you know, just changing the guitar players, you know.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing series. And then I never released it here properly until last year on my
It's
own
tough
label.
here, right? I mean, even like going back to the Mother's Army stuff. I mean,
Well, those days, nobody would touch us because we were all dinosaurs.
yeah,
All the Nirvana stuff, the grunge was in. Nobody wanted to touch us. All the bands, Ted Nugent, Dio. I mean, I was playing with Edgar Winter in 91, 92 while doing Mother's Army. And I was playing clubs with Edgar Winter, like 500C clubs. And Dio was playing the same clubs with my brother.
Yep.
You know? And it was like, everybody was like, you know?
Yeah. It's kind of a dark time for.
Yeah, Black Sabbath wasn't happening. Ozzy really wasn't happening. You know, nobody was happening except Nirvana and Stone Temple Pilots and Pearl Jam and all those guys.
All that stuff, unless you were Metallica, right? Or
yeah,
you know,
well, Metallica was not like, you know, all these other bands, all these other, like Metallica. I consider the band that really created what you call heavy metal. You know, all these other bands, Motley Crue and all, you know, Blue Murder, that's hard rock.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's not heavy metal. That Metallica sound, that sounds like scratching guitar, that to me is what heavy metal was, which turned into death metal and speed metal and
all that,
every other metal. You know?
There's a lot of kinds of metal.
Yeah, but I mean, Ozzy's first album, that was hard rock. First two albums, they're hard rock. You know, Motley Crue was hard rock. Whitesnake, hard rock.
Yep.
You know, and then everybody got metal. King Kobra was hard rock. I mean, it was all hard rock.
Yeah.
I mean, Blue Murder, they detuned a little bit, and it was heavy, but it wasn't what I consider heavy metal. The heavy metal was that really scratchy guitar sound. You know?
Exactly. You know, it's funny. Back to Blue Murder real quick. So I was listening to the album yesterday. I'm thinking, you know what? I think you guys missed out on the song "Billy." Should have been picked as a single.
I thought that was a great song.
Oh, Billy is just terrific, right?
I love that song.
Oh, so catchy. And I think even like "Out of Love," could have been that kind of ballet thing, right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But we did the Weird Al show on MTV. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, yeah.
And that was Billy and Jelly Roll semi-live. We actually cut those tracks, and then we played to them, but it didn't. It looked like we played it. We really had it down. Because John had the studio in his house, so it was easy to do stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
we
out of
just
all the
played
bands
it live. We played it live. You know, played it live, pretty much the same, you know. But we had to listen to it, make sure we did all the fills right.
Yeah, exactly. So out of all the bands you played with, which band had the most persistent set of groupies, or groupies in general, I should say?
All of them.
All of them.
Really, Rod Stewart. There's 98% women in the audience.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like a sex god, you know. So
He still kind of is. I mean, my mom still adores Rod Stewart.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In fact, I was talking to Mom the other day, and I was telling her when we talked last week, and I said, because she loves like the newer Rod Stewart stuff. You know, he plays all the classics and all that kind of stuff, and they love that. So I said, and Carmine used to play with Rod back in the day. She goes, oh, really? And then I told her that, my mother's late 70s. And I said,
she's my age, yeah.
Yeah, she's a little bit older, but she's, but she said, I said, and Carmine's band.
Age.
Yeah, I said Carmine's band, and they're doing a new album with all these Supremes covers. She's like, "Oh, I want to hear that." And then she went and watched the video, and she goes, "He looks very familiar. Did he play live with Rod 5 years ago?" I said, "No, but you probably remember him from all those videos and performances from the '70s." She's like, "Oh, yeah. Carmine looks really familiar. Yeah. And he looks like a New Yorker." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely."
He is a New Yorker. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. So what else? So the thing that my wife mentioned to me earlier, she said, she's like, see if Carmine can talk a little bit about, for the young up and coming musicians today. You've been there, done it all, right? You struggled, you scratched and clawed, you worked hard your whole career. So for someone who's young, whether they be a drummer, a guitar player, singer, songwriter, whatever, who's crazily trying to make it in the music industry here in 2020 or 2019, 2021, what kind of advice can you give to someone who's trying to make a career out of it?
It's so different. Yeah. You know? All I could say is try and make a living with it. You know, if all you have in your head is, I want to make hit records. Nobody has hit records anymore. Yeah. You know, not in the rock gender anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as I used to tell a lot of my students, I used to say, hey, look, try and make a living in the music business. Give lessons, play gigs, play weddings, play whatever you have to play. But at least you're playing your instrument and you're making a living. That's all I wanted to do initially. My drum teacher made a living playing, and that's all I wanted to do. And I just hit it lucky. You know, but today, you know, I don't even know how a band makes it today. There's all these bands that are selling out arenas. I never heard of them.
Yeah.
And they're like internet sensations, you know. I really don't know how that works, to tell you the truth.
Well, I mean, the whole music industry is so bizarre now, because now it's not about selling albums anymore. It's, you know, it's the Spotify thing, the streaming, the downloads, the YouTube videos. I mean, that's like completely foreign.
And right? Movies and getting your song in movies and TV shows. I mean, you know, you keep hanging on in that Quentin Tarantino movie. I mean, we didn't pick it, he did. But the last 2 quarters of royalties, the first quarter of royalties about doubled, a little more than doubled. And the latest one is like quadrupled. And all the Spotify hits so much more now, because, you know, you hit that audience of the younger kids that do all that, you know, I guess. I mean, that's what I'm attributing it to, because there's no other reason for this, you know, surge, which, hey, keep it going. You know?
Are you making good money on that stuff, though? Because
we're making decent money, you know, it's in the thousands, you know.
Okay.
I mean, it's good money, you know. It used to be, you know, hundreds.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big difference now. And you know, now we just released the Zeppelin thing, and with the video, and after the label pushes it through all the ways you promote records today, you know, like the manager said, everybody's got to put it on all the social media. I don't really do social media. I never put on there, hey, today I went out and I went to the beach, you know. I only use it for the business.
Right,
you know,
right.
I put on stuff I'm doing. I put on, you know, name that beat. I put on advertisements for our show, which, you know, like I said, we're having Ted on tomorrow. And, you know, and that's all I use it for. Every once in a while, I'll put something on. I put something on that was about Black Lives Matters and who's funding them and all that. And I got all these people like, oh, I'm not going to come on here anymore, you know, because, you know, I didn't know you were a racist. I said at the beginning of it, I'm not a racist. I just said, here's something, check it out, something to think about. That's all I said.
Yeah.
I didn't say I support it, I don't support it. I just put it up there for people to think, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't use it usually for any of that. But you know what? I had 420 comments, right? In like 2 days, less than 2 days. And I had something like 300 shares, right? I never had that.
Right.
Okay? So, but then there was out of the 410 comments, 20 comments, maybe 10 of them were like negative.
Yeah.
My daughter even told me, take it off. She said, take it off. It makes you look like a racist. I took it off my other, I have two Facebooks. It's the normal one with 5,000 and the fan one that can go over like 40,000, you know?
Right, yeah.
And I left it on the fan one, you know? I should have left it on my other one, let people argue about it.
Controversy
like
sells.
people arguing about the fact that I got Ted Nugent on the show. They're
just you
arguing
wait.
about,
You're going to get more than 400 comments tomorrow. You wait. They're
arguing about it. So I just said, I commented, I said, stop arguing. It's only a show.
Exactly.
You know, what are you arguing about?
Oh, so, controversy sells, my friend. I'm telling
lame.
you.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. That's what it's all about.
But I love Ted. You know, he's a good guy, you know?
Yeah, he's a polarizing figure these days.
He is. He's very polarized. Like my brother Vinny can't make the show tomorrow. So I told my host, Ron Onesti, who runs the Alcada Theater, he owns it. I said, well, Vinny's not going to be. I said, but don't worry about it. Ted will keep us busy.
I'm sure he will.
Yeah, he's great. I love Ted.
Cool. Well, good luck with the show. That should be fun. So,
yeah, it'll be fun.
So everybody, we've been talking with Carmine Appice for close to an hour. Some great insight here. Lots of great stories. But, you know, more importantly, we've got the Supreme Fudge coming out in 2021. So
we still got Guitar Zeus.
Guitar Zeus.
You can get on my website. You can get on merch now. You can get autographed copies, vinyl, CDs. Same on my website. Plus, we're doing, what else are I looking at? Oh, yeah, Vanilla Fudge, of course. And we got a new Cactus album coming out.
Yeah, I'm
looking
forward to that.
It's one of the best albums we've ever done. It sounds
the last
great.
one was awesome. So
much better than that.
Wow.
Much better.
Okay. All right.
Much better than that. The production's much better. We got Paul Warren playing guitar, and McCarty's on a couple of tracks. But McCarty doesn't fly anymore, so he couldn't come to New York to do it. And he doesn't have facility to do guitars at home or anything. So, and Paul's been playing live with us. Paul is from Detroit. His history, he played when he was 17 on Papa's Like a Rolling Stone by the Temptations. A lot of soul, sings great. We actually recut that song, done Cactus style.
Cool.
You know, and he sings the vocal with Jimmy Coons, our singer. And he plays like McCarty on 10.
Wow.
McCarty square to the 10th power.
Wow. Because Jim's a fantastic player. So, wow. Cool.
He is awesome, this guy. He's got great feel. And we wrote some killer songs. And Jimmy Coons wrote great lyrics and all but one song. The other song was written by Phil Narrow. That's the singer from Billy Sheehan's band, Talus.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And he sang it and wrote really, really good lyrics. And I'm trying to get Tim to play on that song. You know, if Tim plays on it, because Tim's really sick.
Yeah, he said, yeah.
If he plays on it, we'll have 3 out of 4 members on that track. You know, so it's not going to come out till the spring. It's going to come out around the same time as Pat Travers' album. Rick Derren's got a new album coming out. and then we're going to tour together. But we're also going to do a blues album, a blues cover album with me, Rick, and Pat. Me with Cactus, do 3 songs. Pat will do 3 songs. Rick will do 3 songs. And then me, Rick, and Pat with, different combination, we'll do 2 or 3 blues songs together.
Wow.
And then we're going to tour together. So we could all do that, one of those songs or 2 of those songs at the end of the night, So that's going to be probably late spring, hopefully after they have the damn vaccine.
Yeah.
Because it's killing us. I haven't played a gig since February,
Yeah.
Well, luckily, financially, I'm not hurting that way. I'm doing okay, but a lot of friends are hurting, A lot of musicians are hurting because they can't. It was okay when they were giving out that $600 a week unemployment, but now that's stopped. And
that's gone,
A lot of people are starting to get hurting again.
Yeah. Well, we can only hope that this situation fixes itself soon.
Unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying, well, don't worry. After November 4th, it'll all go away. We'll see. I know there's a virus out there, but I think the numbers are inflated.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I'm just going by friends out here that went to go get a test. They didn't do it. Following week, they got test results positive on a test they didn't take. So you figure, well, if that happened to 3 people, how many more people has that happened to?
Yeah.
So who knows?
Who knows?
But for me, I'm down Florida, loving it. Got the studio. I walk from inside the house into past the garage into the guest house. My drums are set up, the mics are on, and it's great to just go in and be able to play. If I got tracks waiting for me to play, it's awesome.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to all the new music. I can't wait. So
yeah, me too.
Cool. Well, Carmine, thanks once again.
Thanks,
this has been a great chat, and thanks to Carmine Appice for coming back on the show a second time. This was great, and I think we need to talk again when the new albums are coming out, and we can actually, talk more in depth about them. So
you got it, man.
So, Carmine, thanks again. I am Pete Pardo. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. For Carmine Appice, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. Take care.